Welcome and good afternoon to our Microsoft Dynamics 365 webcast for public sector. My name is Dennis Lacey from OnActuate. OnActuate is a gold certified Microsoft Dynamics partner with a particular focus practice in the public sector supporting state and local government. In terms of logistics today, please submit your questions online and they'll be responded to throughout the session and or at the end of the session. Our agenda today covers an introduction that I'll be giving to the public sector in terms of trends, in terms of the drivers for the solution that we're going to see. What is it that's driving all of these organizations? We have a tremendous amount of both demand and momentum in the public sector to transform their business processes, transform their sector process to meet requirements. From there, I'll be passing it to Tyler Lewin. Tyler is with Microsoft, and he'll be demonstrating, introducing the solution in terms of its usability, navigation, and interoperability, which are key to these clients. Lisa Gerard then will follow with the demonstration of the key business processes that our clients need in terms of procurement, budgets, grants, and the financial system, how it meets those key requirements in terms of the automation you're looking for. Then Bobby Kendall from OnActuate, the senior public sector consultant, will show you an example of extending that solution again to meet the requirements of our city, local, and state government agencies. What they're looking for is an open solution, so a solution that supports collaborative processing from the vendors, the clients, the customers, as well as real-time analytics, not just regulatory reporting, but analytics to make better decisions and more timely decisions. And then I'll wrap up with next steps. In terms of the drivers, in terms of modern finance, and this report from Gartner highlights this, there is a strong transition to the cloud to operate on Microsoft Azure. Virtually all of the RFPs, the bids that we get today as a partner for Microsoft, those bids mandate that their new systems will go from on-premise to the cloud. They're looking for an open system, a collaborative system, a powerful system. And so they've decided that they need to move to the cloud to support that. Another trend is that, and this is not totally new, is that a great bottleneck related to those processes is in terms of the disparate system, isolated systems, disconnected systems that they have today. At the same time, the trend is that they need an open system to support that citizen partner engagement that is a requirement, and a very secure system in the cloud that meet that requirement. Last but not least, again, is the need for systems to support real-time decision-making, analytics, artificial intelligence to support the requirements and their ever-evolving requirements. As I mentioned, these concerns are the same for public sector, we're finding, as well as the commercial sector. So you'll see at the end of the session, examples of clients that have moved to the cloud and met these requirements, and where their requirements come from are these isolated and disconnected applications. So we're seeing requirements to support or replace as many as 20 or 30 different systems with one holistic solution that is interoperable. At the same time, you'll be seeing in demonstrations today that these systems allow you to automate the business processes from end to end, and at the same time, supported by enabling technology, a platform that is not technical by nature, but supports the end users, so it's driven by the end users to support their analytics and support their case management requirements. And Microsoft's solution is called Microsoft Dynamics 365, and it's truly termed by Gartner, by Nucleus and analysts as a modern financial system, a modern ERP that allows you to do that transformation, take advantage of the predictive analytics, and at the same time has the requirements, the enabling technology to support the requirements as they evolve, as you need to going forward. So your users, whether they be in finance, whether they're in budgets, whether they're in purchasing, whether they're in many other of the groups that you have in the public sector, supporting case management, supporting buildings, supporting clients, external clients and stakeholders, it's one solution rather than disparate solutions that you need going forward, and a solution that's transparent, that's open, and it's actionable, and it provides you the financial insights that allow you to do your job in a much more productive manner. OnActuate's approach, we call this sitting in a box. And what it is prescribed processes that meet the requirements of finance, purchasing, and with the enabling technology in a very predictive manner. So we've itemized all of those processes in those areas that need to be implemented. And what that does, it lowers the risks, drives down the cost, and heightens the chance, the opportunity to have a successful implementation production and meet those requirements in a very, very stable manner. And with that, I'm going to pass this to Tyler. Tyler?
Thanks, Dennis. My name is Tyler Lewin. I'm a technical specialist with Microsoft for Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. And in this first section, we want to give you an idea of the look and feel of the modern ERP system, how we navigate, and the built-in tools that make your day-to-day a little easier. First, by looking at the dashboard here when we first log in, we're accessing this through a web browser. So this is a cloud-based solution. We are actually hosting all of the code, the data, and managing updates and security through Microsoft servers on Azure. So these are the things that are no longer needed to be managed on premises, but actually done on Microsoft servers and accessed through a web browser. And as a web browser, we can do certain things that increase the usability here. And for instance, I'm in full screen. That's just an F11 to go full screen and get the most real estate on the screen. We can also zoom in and resize if you're nearsighted like I am and want to make the fonts bigger or smaller, get more on the screen. We can easily do that just built right into the web browser. Now, when we first log in, we'll see a dashboard. Now, I'm a system administrator, so I see all the tiles that are in the system for our workplaces or our workspaces. Later in the presentation, we'll see that these are actually tailored to a security role. So if I'm an accounts payable clerk, as an example, I'm not going to see financial period close, data management, and so forth. I'll see only the dashboards that are specific to my role. Such as vendor payments, purchase order processing, and so on. Now, with these tiles, these all link out to workspaces that are geared towards a particular role or a task, or they can be analytical as well. But these are easily personalizable as well. So I see a tile for project management. If I go into project management, I can see that I have one project in the planning stage, and I can actually add this as a link to that by just simply right-clicking, personalize, and pinning this to the dashboard. Now, when I go back to the main screen on that dashboard, we'll see the project management workspace will now include a link to the projects in planning with a counter of the records there as well. In the bottom left, we see work items assigned to me. Now, throughout the system, we have an integrated workflow that manages document routing for approval. So anything that is pending action by me, whether it be approving, rejecting, or something that I submitted was rejected, those will all show up under work items assigned to me that we can hyperlink right in. So I can see that I have some expense reports that require approval. We can click that and view all of the expense reports that are pending my action through workflow, done right at the top here. If we go back to the main page, we can also see in the top left, we have an app menu. And this will link out to our Office applications, other Dynamics applications, such as the customer engagement side of Dynamics, which would be Dynamics 365 for sales, project service, automation, marketing, and so forth. These would all be accessible here as well. And if I go down to get more apps, this will open up App Source. And what that is if we have functionality that we need in our organization that is not provided by out-of-box functionality, all of our partner network that has developed additional bolt-on solutions to Dynamics are available through App Source. So if I need functionality around lease accounting. We can see that through AppSource, Crow has a lease accounting optimizer. I can click in here, watch some product demonstrations, read the descriptions, and actually reach out to that ISV to maybe find some more information about it, get a demo, and that sort of thing. So if we come back to the main landing page here, we'll talk about some of the basic navigation functions of the system as well. Right at the top, we have a search that we can find any page that we need. So if I want to look up all vendors, I can type in all vendors and I can see the menu path and link right out to the all vendors page to access a list of my vendors. And that's with any form in the system. If you can't remember off the top of your head where that menu path is, we can just do a search and find that really quickly. If we have multiple companies, multiple legal entities within our organization, we don't have to log out and log back in. This drop menu here actually shows us all of the legal entities within the system that we can easily switch between companies without leaving the system. If we go back to the left and look at our navigation pane, we have a few ways that we organize the menu paths within the system. So the first one is our traditional module list, probably used to this with most ERP systems. And this just separates by module, and within the module, we'll have actually links out to workspaces that we'll look at in a second. And then our master lists, configuration, periodic tasks, and inquiries and reports. And that's going to be throughout each module here. And if there's a form or a page that we access regularly within our role, every link will have a star next to it that we can easily just add to our favorites. And now those will be listed here. So I don't need to hunt and search for a particular menu item. We can just add them as favorites and they'll all show up right here. The other piece that we have is workspaces. And these are really just the tiles that we see on our landing page as well. But these are basically areas that are grouped by a role or a task or particular analytics that we want to do. So they can be both functional, they can be analytical, or they can be a mixture of both. So we'll first take a look at a functional workspace. The first one is financial period close. So this is a workspace that's geared around closing the month end for our organization and managing all of the tasks that need to occur and who's responsible for them. So when we first log in, we can see we're closing March 2017, so in the past a little bit, but we can see 131 past due tasks, and then we can actually see the status of those tasks by company, by area, which would be modules, so accounts payable, accounts receivable, general ledger, or status by person. So I'm looking at company USMF, and here's a list of all of the open tasks that need to happen for closing this financial period and who's responsible for them and due date. This is completely personalizable in terms of listing what tasks need to happen. So this can definitely be adapted to your organization to match what processes happen at your month-end close. Furthermore, within these lists, I can see that these are actually hyperlinks. So I can see that Cassie has a task to reconcile the vendors to the general ledger. And these are hyperlinks that bring the form right on top of this period close workspace so that we can execute that report or that process without leaving the financial period close workspace. And so the goal is to really just reduce that time to close, organize the tasks, who's responsible for them, manage dependencies and due dates as well to make that the most efficient as possible. So now we'll look at more of an analytical workspace. This is more of a hybrid. It shows both functional and analytical. So we can see our personnel management workspace shows us recently hired workers, if we have any open positions in a list that we can drill into as well. And we can quickly find a worker by just typing in their name, and we can see here's a list of our Julias that are employed. These are all of our Julia workers. We can drill into them and edit information, but we also have analytics. If I click here, this will open up a Power BI embedded report based on our human resources data. So these are out of box. They can be customized. So if there's particular performance indicators that we want to include, these are easily modifiable, but we do ship with some very useful ones out of box. So as an example, we can look at workforce demographics, and everything that we see, all of these tiles are actually live filters as well. So if I click in on Spanish-speaking employees, this will actually update the tiles and show us specifically to our selection the results based on our data. So it's a really powerful way, other than just looking at reports, to experiment with your data and interact with it to try to make some analytical decisions and act upon them. So the next thing I want to show is integration with the Office platform. And to really demonstrate that, I'm going to look at a general journal in our general ledger module. Here I have a simple one-line general journal entry that we can see our typical ledger account, debit and credit, and then as a single line entry, the offset account, so what account would receive that credit transaction. If we look at the top right, we'll see an option to actually open this in Excel. If I click this, we can download it right to our machine. We can save it to OneDrive for Business or a SharePoint directory as well. And what that looks like is right here. Through the Microsoft Dynamics data connector, this will bring that journal entry into Excel, and it's still live. It's not just an export. This is the journal entry itself. So we can modify, we can add lines, we can import lines, and actually publish back into Dynamics using this link here. What else is really powerful about this is it's not simply just free text entry. If I click on main account here, this is configuring a lookup that looks at my chart of accounts within the system, and I can select from this list. So I don't need to memorize main accounts. I can actually have a lookup that will pull those values in. And once I've made all of my changes, it's as simple as clicking publish, and those changes will be reflected back into the system. And finally, if I come back to our dashboard, I'd like to show what we call Task Recorder. And this is a method of recording the steps that are required to execute a business process or a task, and then actually pull that information back up so that I can use it as a guide or actually have the system walk me right through it. So previously, I recorded a task around updating the vendor payment terms or method of payment for a vendor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Task Recorder, and I'm going to play this recording as a guide. I saved it to my machine. We can save it in the cloud under Lifecycle Services, but I'm just going to open it from my machine because that's where I have it saved as. I'll browse out and update vendor payment terms is what I called this Task Recorder. So I'll open this and open Task Guide. Now I can use this just as reference. I can go to accounts payable, vendors, all vendors, and just use this as a guide to execute my task, or I can actually have the system walk me through step by step, click by click. So I'll click Start Task Guide, and this will tell me exactly what I need to do. Go to vendor, accounts payable, vendors, and all vendors. Now, once I complete a step, the system recognizes that I completed that step, and it will move on to the next step and show me exactly what I need to do along the way. So I've opened the vendor. Now it says I need to expand the payment tab. And this will show me update the terms of payment, exactly where that field is that I need to update. Once I'm complete, we'll save and close. It's now recognized that I've completed that task. And that task guide is complete. So now that we've looked at some of the cross-functional features of a modern ERP system, I'll turn it over to Lisa to highlight some functions around procurement, budget, grant management, and fund accounting as well. So thank you everyone for your time. Lisa?
Thank you, Tyler. I'm going to take you through just a little bit of the processing within the system. Dennis talked about automating business processes and having real-time information to aid with your decision making. So we'll walk through a couple of the processes within Dynamics 365. Specifically, we're going to look at a bit of procurement. We'll start off with a requisition. We'll see how that flows through the procurement suite. We'll talk about budget control along the way, how it integrates with the GL, and of course your project ledger. We'll get into a little bit of discussion about funds and grants and so on. I'm going to kick this off. I'm logged in as a user at the department level, so I don't have access to everything on my dashboard. You can see that the workspaces that I have available to me are pretty limited, and again, that's just based on my role. And what we're going to do in this part of the demonstration is I'm actually going to start through employee self-service. because self-service is really tailored to the things that I want to have access to, whether they're HR related, whether it's expense reports. In this case, we're going to kick off a requisition, so I have a tile on my employee self-service workspace for a new requisition. And from here, I'm going to be able to go in and, based on security and procurement policy, start off that procurement process with a requisition. So I'm going to create a new one. We're going to buy some computer supplies here, if I can type. And I am going to make this project related. We're going to talk a little bit about the project ledger today. The project ledger in Dynamics is a subsidiary ledger to the GL. So everything that we do within the Dynamics application can be hitting the general ledger and at the same time updating to a project. So if I'm trying to track project expenses, for example, maybe I'm trying to purchase some supplies that I'm going to use on a project, I can indicate that on the requisition itself. Now I see some header information in here. I can go ahead and collapse that. And now I can start adding the lines of what it is that I want to include in this requisition. Several options depending on what your procurement policies are internally. I can use commodity codes or procurement categories. Maybe you have internal product catalogs that you're using. For today, I'm going to use an external catalog, which is really just a punch out. In this case, I just have a single vendor set up. You would likely have several vendors that you have relationships with, where I can now punch out to their website and do my purchasing online. Something that most of your users are probably comfortable just from their personal lives, being able to go out and familiar navigating through a system such as this. If I want to come out, let's just go find, we're going to look for some computer accessories. Maybe as part of this project, we're going to be doing some video conferencing for our progress meetings. So I'm just going to add, this first one looks pretty good. We're going to add a couple of those to my cart. Now, rather than just checking out with a credit card and paying that bill later on, what I want to do, the reason that we're doing this punch out, is I want to bring that information back into Dynamics, because that's where your business rules are. That's where your purchasing policies exist. All of your budget checking, all of your allocations are happening there, all of your workflow. It's all configured within Dynamics. So that step of punching out is really just allowing me to bring that information back into the Dynamics application. All of the details are here, the dollar amounts, everything got brought back in, and now I can kick that into workflow. A few other things I could have done, and we won't do it in this presentation, but I can attach supporting documentation. For example, we'll talk a little bit about the budgeting that's happening behind this, but I'm going to submit this into workflow. I can always put comments in. So we'll just say this is for project meetings. I'm going to correct my typo there, and I'm going to submit that into workflow. Workflow, there's a complete audit trail when we talk about workflow in the system. So any kind of documentation that you want to attach, or those comments that I'm putting on, are always going to be available throughout that whole audit trail of the workflow process. So let's switch gears here. I'm going to switch over to another user. This user is my project manager, and you can see when I'm logged in as my project manager, first of all, she likes the color purple. Tyler didn't talk about getting into the details of the colors, but of course that's going to be a personalization within the system. And what she's going to do is she's going to get notification if she's part of that workflow process, because my first user who submitted the requisition is charging it to a project. My project manager is going to get notification that something's been submitted to them for approval, and now I can take action on it from here. So here's the requisition. We can see that Brad had submitted it, and the date and the due date of when that's due. So this is that embedded workflow within the application. Now I'm being notified on my dashboard. You might get notified via email. There's a mobile app if you want to take action from a mobile app. And then right from here, I can see what that requisition was. I could see with the paperclip if any attachments were included with that. Everything looks good. I've got a little budget check validation check mark over here, so I don't really need to go into all of the details. But if you wanted to see what was behind that, if I come down drilling into a little bit more to see the distribution, I can actually see that that line has been allocated to two different accounts. 20% being allocated to one and 80% being allocated to another. And you might be looking at that and saying, Lisa, those are the same accounts. Indeed, they are on the GL side, but if we look at the details behind that, we're going to be able to see that the 80% is coming from a funding source. In this case, I have a state grant that's paying 80% of that charge. And if we look at the first line, then I can see the remaining 20% is coming out of Public Works. So what happened in the background, even though you didn't see when I submitted the requisition, the fact that I was buying computer supplies, I was charging it to a project, it's doing all of that accounting and the budget checking automatically in the background. So if this looks good to me, I'm going to go ahead and take action from the workflow perspective. I could approve it, reject it, I could send it to somebody else. For now, I think this looks fine. So we'll just say this is good. And off that goes through the rest of the procurement process. What I'd like to do before we look any further into the purchasing side is let's dive into that project a little bit more. So that project, when we're purchasing something, and I said I was going to charge it to a project, it figured out what the funding source is, who was going to pay for that expense. And this was something simple like a couple of webcams, but it could be contract services, it could be employee time through payroll. All of that is handled through the project management and accounting piece. So in my project management workspace, and again, the workspace is that focus area that Tyler was talking about. I have tiles. I can see my released projects out here. I have links to my most frequent processes that I need to do, like creating project invoices to request reimbursement and those sorts of things. But let's just have a look at a project itself. So these are my projects. I'm logged in as the project manager. If I want to go look at one in detail, I can click on the specific project and we can immediately see the project hierarchy. I can see that this West River Corridor Improvement Project is broken into multiple phases. Each phase is broken into tasks. You can actually take this further if you want to. If you do work breakdown structure in my plan menu, I can access the work breakdown structure. I can open it up in Microsoft Project if that's a tool that you use as part of your project management. So that interoperability exists across several places. It's not just out to Excel like Tyler showed. We can have things going out to Word. We can have interoperability with Microsoft Project, any of those tools that you need to use for your role. What I want to focus on here, though, is the project funding. So we saw that that was split 80-20 between my funding sources. Now I'm going and I'm looking at how that funding source has been set up. So I can see that I have funding sources identified. I have that state grant. I have actually that was my federal grant. I have a couple of grants out here. I have a neighboring jurisdiction that's going to contribute some dollars. I have money coming from Public Works. So I can see all of the source of the funding sources that are contributing to this project. If I go down to the rules side of it, of course, you can set funding limits for each of those as well. But down in the rules, now I can start getting specific about which funding sources are going to pay for which types of expenses, especially when you have grants. They're very picky about the sorts of things that they're going to reimburse you for and how much they're going to reimburse you for, so you can have start and end dates associated with any of these. I just have a very simple rule that says 80% comes out of that grant, 20% is coming from Public Works. So that's the rule that triggered that allocation, did the budget checking accordingly, and then I'll always be able to, at the project level, come out and see where I stand from a budget perspective. So if I come into my budget control area, now I'm going to be able to see my project budget balances. I can see again my hierarchy over on the left-hand side. So as detailed as you want to get, I'm looking at the project as a whole. I'm not putting any time filters on there, but project accounting is inception to date. So it's not necessarily tied to your fiscal year. So I can see project to date or current year, or maybe you're looking for something specific like quarter to date or a certain month. And then I can also break it down by how am I budgeting by transaction type, by category group. Maybe I'm using cost templates or categories. But this is going to allow me to see how much am I budgeting originally, current approved, what's been consumed, what's remaining, what's been committed on purchase orders or purchase agreements, revisions, unapproved revisions, carry forward, because this is inception to date. You'll have carry forward budget. So if I go down to, that was the project we just charged to, and I want to see this broken out by category, now I can see where I stand on budget. So I've got plenty of budget left on this particular project. 21 was the original, the remaining is almost entirely all there. I've consumed a little bit, I haven't committed anything yet. So always visibility into real-time information, in this case about a project. So let's see this work through the procurement process a little bit. I'm going to switch over to one more user. This is my finance user. And you can see my finance user has access to a few more areas within the system. My dashboard has lots of workspaces on it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on a little bit more of that procurement process. So we submitted the requisition. My project manager reviewed it, approved it. So I'm going to come into purchase order preparation workspace. And again, that workspace is really tailoring the screen for me, giving me everything that I need to do this one task, this purchase order preparation task. So in order to do that, I have a tile over here on the left-hand side for show me all of my approved requisitions. So it's like I'm running a query, but I don't actually have to go run the query. I can just go out and find, click on the tile, and it goes out and runs a query for me, tells me that there were 9 requisitions sitting out there ready to be processed. And here I can see this second line is the one that we just did, the Pro webcams. We bought 2 of them for $110.18. That looks good. We'll go ahead and select that, and I'm going to release this to a purchase order. So within our procurement process, the requisition can pre-encumber funds. The purchase order, once I confirm it, will encumber funds. So it just tells me it's created a draft purchase order number 128. And now if I go in and look at my approved purchase orders that are sitting out there, now I can see I've got number 128 sitting here. Has not been confirmed yet. Now, depending on what your internal policies are, maybe once it's gone through approval, we can go ahead and confirm it. Maybe you'd have some vendor collaboration that happens with your organization where the vendor has some say in that purchase order before it actually gets confirmed, and all of that can be done through our vendor collaboration portal. I'm just going to go ahead and confirm this one. It's been approved. Everything looks good. We'll go ahead and confirm that. That is encumbering those funds. It's doing my budget validation and everything else, but it will confirm that. It'll encumber the funds. It now sets it up ready to be printed or electronically distributed to the vendor. And now I can see I have my purchase order out here. There's the one for CDW. And I can see my current encumbered amount is $115.69. So now that's going to sit out there and wait to be received, and then we can invoice against it. Let's just circle back around. Remember our project. If we go back to our project budget balance, if we zoom into that one little area that we were talking about, now we can see we have $115.69 committed. And then if you needed to get to the details of that, you always have the ability to go down and look at the committed costs, or look at the invoices, or look at whatever it is that the transactions you have going on against that project. So real-time information right at your fingertips, ability to make decisions based on that information, having it all flowing through that nice streamlined process. Okay, one other thing I want to touch on here is let's look at this from more of the finance side. So I took you through just a very small snippet of the procurement process. We looked very briefly at what is a project and what are the funding sources, are the grants and so on associated with that. How are we checking budget for that project? Let's look at that from a GL side, because in Dynamics, the general ledger is really the foundation of the entire system. That project ledger is your subsidiary ledger. Single point of entry can be updating both. But let's have a little bit more of a look at the ledger budget and forecast side of it. So this is looking at the GL. And what this is going to do is, again, my workspace is just showing me where I stand from the general ledger. And I have a configure my workspace option up in the toolbar that lets it be personalized to me. So I'm only seeing the accounts that I'm most concerned with. It's showing me revised budget, actual spend, variance percent used. If I just do a quick scroll down here, at a first glance, you'll notice that everything is over 50%, and that is based on my configuration, my personalization. I said, when I look at this list, don't bother me with all the stuff that I'm good on budget. I just want to see the stuff that I'm over budget on, or getting close to getting over budget on. So I've put I call it my pain threshold in there, anything over 50%. Let's just sort this out of interest. Let's see the largest to the smallest. Oh, turns out I have a couple of troubled accounts out here. Let's pick on the Parks Department. So we are well over budget in our salary and benefit account in the Parks Department. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on Unit Manager, and that's going to show me who the responsible person is. So not only am I getting the status information about my accounts, but it's allowing me to take action on it. And that's one of the keys when we start talking about business intelligence and having access to information within the system. We're talking more than just a report. Now, don't get me wrong, we have a number of reports in the system, but I don't want you to have to look at a report and then go somewhere else to take action on it. We're showing you the information, you can make real-time decisions on it, and then you can take real-time action on it. So I know that Ahmed is the responsible party here. I can quickly jump on a Teams phone call with them, or send an email, or a Skype message, or whatever it is. Instant action taken on the information that we're seeing. Now, the other thing that I get through my ledger, budget, and forecast workspace is some of the reporting. In this case, I have some of that embedded Power BI that Tyler was showing. He had it off on an analytics tab. I've got a couple of those tiles displayed right here on my workspace. We can make that a little bit bigger if you can't see like Tyler can't. And this is, again, real-time information, surfacing visual information. Power BI is a very visual application. Being able to analyze that underlying data, turn it into usable information. So this is showing me my total expenses by year, broken down by category, for example. And then, again, standard reports within the system. We're talking about the general ledger, so I want to get out to my financial reports, anything from your balance sheet accounts to your income statements and expenditure and revenue status reports. I've just got an expenditure report in here that we'll have a quick look at. And what this is showing is, again, real-time information. It's going to give me a status. Let's zoom in here so you can see that a little bit. Of my budget, original, current, pre-encumbrances, encumbrances, spend, dollars available, percent available. And in this case, just broken down by my defined categories. So I can see my general supplies, for example, or I can see capital outlay, or I can see operations and so on. The key with this is these are all hyperlinks. So if I want to see what's behind that $500,000 in general supply expenses, now I can get into some details. And now in this case, it's breaking it down by fund. And then if I want to break down into more detail, if I select general fund, now I'm seeing it by department. And now I want to see within a specific department, now I'm seeing it by division. Now that hierarchy, that breakdown that I'm navigating through is entirely driven by my organization hierarchy. So in the top left corner, you'll see that I have a reporting tree. So I have general fund, all of my departments broken down. So for example, if I were interested in public works, now I can see everything in my menu at the top, title at the top, excuse me, that I'm looking at public works. And then same thing, I can drill into the details. I can see the divisions within public works. I can go right down to the individual accounts. And then it's going to take me even further and right into individual transactions. So I know where the line is between the report and the GL. Most users may not see that transition, but that report allows me to continue to drill into more and more information. Some users are going to be fine with that high level information. Some of your users are going to require this level of detail where I can come down and I can see that there was an invoice or there was a purchase order. What are the lines on that invoice? What's the accounting that's happening behind all of that? This is taking me down to that original transaction. And it's all based on that organization hierarchy. So last thing I'm going to show you here is that foundation piece, that organization hierarchy. This drives a lot of what we do within the Dynamics 365. So we saw that it drives what the report hierarchy looks like, how I can drill from the organization overall into departments. In this case, we went into public works. Public works had divisions. Those divisions had cost centers, and I could continue to drill into that level of detail. The hierarchy will also control security. So if you are in sewer administration, then your security role falls under sewer, under public works, and everything that you have access to is filtered accordingly. Workflow. When I submitted that purchase requisition and it goes through workflow, that can also be driven by organization hierarchy. Simply by following up the hierarchy chain based on signing limits, we can have the hierarchy picture control what's happening within the system. The reason we want to do that is your organization will change at some point. So what I can do from here is if I wanted to make a change to my hierarchy, if I come into edit mode here, let's say for fun, we're going to take IT. Right now they roll up under finance. We're going to cut them out of IT and we're going to put them over here under the police department. So everything that we just did and talked about is now different for IT because now IT rolls up under the police department and not under finance. So their access to transactions changed, their access to programs changed, their workflow rules just changed, their reporting structure just changed. Now, I haven't posted this yet. If I go and publish it, it's going to want to know an effective date. So maybe this is going to become effective July 1. So I can sit down today, set that up. It'll take effect July 1. And then from that date forward, it follows the new structure. Okay, so that's just a little bit of an introduction to Dynamics 365, the processes themselves. We talked a little bit about procurement, budget checking. In this case, I also rolled in some project and grant accounting and looking at the funding and checking on the status of each of those. And then we wrapped up with a little bit of the reporting on the finance side.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm Bobby Kendall, Public Sector Consultant with OnActuate. And for my time today, I'm going to cover vendor portal collaboration, customer engagement, budget reporting, and analytics. So as we saw earlier, that Lisa demonstrated, Dynamics is going to come with really solid procure-to-pay functionality. But to meet some specific needs in the public sector, OnActuate's work to enhance the product even further. And they've done this by adding a web component that allows vendors to self-register with the government. Once they're self-registered, they'll have the ability to see a list of all open RFQs and also tailor that list of RFQs to meet the line of work that they're in. So they're not seeing all RFQs, just the ones that are relevant to their work. Additionally, there's a workspace for payment tracking, so vendors are able to see, and so vendors and internal staff are able to see where payments lie for specific vendors and for specific work. Additionally, there's also a Power BI reporting mechanism that allows the procurement teams to be able to see in a visual way how the different vendors stacked up against each other, and we'll see some examples of that coming up. And then lastly, there's a sealed bid feature that's in the works to be released sometime soon. But this feature will allow the bids that are submitted to be anonymous until a set date. And once that set date comes to pass, then those bids will be opened, and then only at that point will the procurement teams be able to see who the bid amounts for the particular vendors. This is an example of the vendor payment workspace. On the left-hand side, you can see there's a tile that says one item's been paid, and in the middle section, you can see an example of the details that are provided. So you can see a purchase order was created on the 4th of February, and then the payment was issued the very same day. This is an example of the landing page for self-registration. So a vendor would come here, fill out some very simple data in the fields, and then once they hit create, they'll be registered, and from there they can go in and create or modify their profile even further to meet their needs and how they want to work with the different government entity. This is an example of a procurement report that would allow a procurement team to look at how different vendors stack up against each other. So on the bottom, you will see the scoring criteria. In the details section, you'll see how each vendor rated in each of those areas that were being scored. And so this is just a quick way for procurement teams to take a look at and visualize how the different procurement or vendors stack up against each other. Next, I want to talk a little about mobile workspace. So Dynamics is very mobile friendly. What this means is you can connect to Dynamics using a variety of sources, whether it's a phone, tablet, or a computer or laptop, and it really allows you to access your data on the go. So whether you're in a car or a meeting room or moving from headquarters to a satellite office, you now have the ability to access your data wherever you are. Okay, let's talk about Dynamics and customer engagement. So So let's focus on the service side of things. So for those outward-facing, customer-facing teams within the government, Dynamics offers some functionality or features that allows those teams to work with the public better and allows them to track their work in a variety of different ways. So within Dynamics, you'll have routing and workflow monitoring, automated responses. You can track your ticket status by tracking stages. Just a whole bunch of different features that help you manage your caseload and get your work done and enable faster response times. Now let's flip it over to the other side. So once those customers are working with you, the customer portal side allows them to avoid having to call in and get on a phone tree and go through all the different numbers that they got to go to just to reach to somebody to get a question answered. But the portal will allow them to log in and see where their ticket is at any given moment, what stage they're in. So let's take, for example, a permit process. Maybe a contractor submitted a permit that they wanted to have reviewed. That contractor can then log in and see where it is with the permit review team. Is it in the initial phase? Is it in the review phase? Or is it in the final phases? And it really just empowers those customers to see where their request is in the process. All right, so D365, it's really changing the way the government sector is able to work. For example, with the applications and the ability to be in the cloud, it's giving internal and external users the ability to connect to their data anywhere they are, whether they're in the car or a different meeting room. It's allowing them to work from home. It's allowing them to do a variety of things. In addition, having all of your data in one place really is driving a bunch of the analytics that we're capable of. So you're able to give your leaders faster, more real-time data so they can make key decisions. But at the same time, you're able to give that line staff also key data elements to help them do their job faster. And then lastly, all this technology is really just enabling, from a customer standpoint, enabling certain field teams and customer-facing teams to allow them to have a faster response time on meeting field requests. So now we're going to talk about budget planning and reporting, and we'll do a little bit of budget planning, and then we'll talk about some of the analytics and reports that you guys can develop through Dynamics and Power BI. So for budget planning, Dynamics really supports both a top-down approach and bottom-up approach. It's whatever works for your business. So whether that's the budget office driving the budget from the top and requesting information from the cost centers, or the cost centers driving the budget from the bottom and working their plan up to the department level for review, and from the department level onto a budget office or a finance review to finalize. Both approaches are supported by Dynamics planning. So what drives that planning process is a workflow engine behind the scenes that can be configured to meet your approval process needs. So whether you have one review or two reviews, this workflow engine can be configured to meet that need and verify that the documents that are being created in Dynamics are being reviewed and approved by the appropriate staff within your business units. So this is an example of a budget planning document in Dynamics 365, and on the left-hand side you'll see the account string, and on the right-hand side you'll see the area where the budget user could go in and plug in some amounts that they want to budget for or forecast for. And so one of the great things about this is that this plan is totally integrated with Excel. So a user can dump this out into Excel, do all of their work in Excel using a tool that they're very familiar with for analytics and data, and then in one step just hit publish and publish that plan data, that data they entered back into the plan. They can also allocate budgets, create official budget entries and change layouts, and they can also create budgets from adding from different areas in Dynamics. Now I'm going to talk to you a bit about the budget reporting options in Dynamics. So out of the box, you're going to have two main options. One is Financial Report Designer, and the other is Power BI. With Financial Report Designer, this is really geared towards your financial statements, balance sheets, income statements, quarterly reports, things of that nature. The Report Designer is going to be more geared towards for those reports that you want to share with people external that are out of the system. It's good for PDF formats, things of that nature. And then you're going to have Power BI, which is going to have all your data visualizations, your dashboards for all staffing levels that allow you to drill down through data. It's going to enable some report sharing within the Power BI application. And it's really geared towards telling that story in real time, answering questions that people have in the room right there and then, by being able to drill through that data or show them a visual that that meets their needs. It's also, you can access this anywhere, so you can, whether you're on the go or run into somebody in the hallway, you're able to maybe pull up a report and show them and give them an answer right there and then. So the next few slides will be some examples of some user-generated Power BI reports. I'm not going to go into too many details with these, only to showcase that if the out-of-the-box Power BI reports don't meet your needs, like the ones that Lisa showed earlier, then you have the option to come in and create users using that low-code environment to create your own customized report. So this is just a few examples of what a user-generated Power BI report might look like. So here's another one that a user created, just pretty simple, very similar to the one before, but just a different aspect. So the one before focused on forecasts, and this one's more focusing on actuals. And then again, this example of a Power BI report is mainly to show that not all the reports need to be graphs and charts and all that stuff, but that some of the reports you can just create numerical reports in here as well. So as I close out my time with you guys today, I'm going to talk about one additional area that OnActuate's really extending the Dynamics product, and that's around the CAFR. And so as we all know, building out the CAFR each year is a very labor-intensive and cumbersome process. And so OnActuate's been working to add a bit more structure to the product, specifically around access management, document management, so keeping track of all those different documents that help build that CAFR, and then giving the users a report wizard to help them generate any sort of financial report that they need to put in the CAFR, and then giving the CAFR team the ability to assign tasks. So giving each team member the team lead to give each team member the ability to give them specific tasks on that CAFR. And then in addition to the document management, there's also the ability for a place to store all the different CAFR data reports that are used each year in generating that CAFR report. And then finally, there's a process that takes all of this stuff from the library and the data report and seamlessly puts it all together for your CAFR and streamlines generating that CAFR report each year. And so really, it's really just bringing a bunch of structure around that CAFR process and creating a streamlined process for the CAFR team to keep track of all the different elements involved with that. So that wraps up my time with you guys today. Thank you guys for joining. I'm going to pass it off to Dennis for us to wrap us up here. And thank you guys again. Bye.
Thank you, Bobby. I'm going to wrap up with highlighting the elevated importance of compliance, security on our systems today, as well as the momentum of Dynamics 365 in the market. At the beginning of the session, we talked about the transition to the cloud for public sector clients, for commercial clients. There is a mandate among many of the requirements that we get with our existing clients and new clients to move to the cloud. So the importance of security, compliance to systems and standards is more critical than ever. And Microsoft certainly has done a very good job of adhering to that need for enhanced security as well as compliance to different industry standards. And that's attested to by many industry analysts, Gartner, Nucleus, and others, as well as by recent choices by very large organizations that have moved to the cloud, such as defense. So if we look on the left-hand side, in terms of industry certifications, third-party audits for SOC, as well as government certifications, Microsoft has these certifications and standards for security and other requirements across many geographies as well as many industries. And importantly as well, if you look on the right-hand side, Microsoft is certified for all of their product lines, including the dynamic product lines that you've seen today. In addition to that, when we talk about momentum, we're talking about momentum of Dynamics 365 similarly across many industries and across many sectors. In terms of the public sector, we have clients at the state level, we have clients at the agency level, we have clients at many other sectors, agencies and utilities and airports that have adopted the solution, the same solution that you're reviewing today, Dynamics 365 for finance and supply chain. And again, at the beginning of this session, we talked about organizations that had many siloed systems, disparate systems. And Washington State Department of Labor Industries is an atypical client that had multiple budgeting systems. They had 4 different budgeting systems. There are many inefficiencies in terms of semi-automated processes, manual steps, which meant they were spending a lot of time just maintaining the systems and making it integrate with their statewide systems. With the implementation of Dynamics 365 Finance for financial planning and budgeting, which you saw today, highlighted by Lisa as well as Bobby, that is now one holistic system that they're able to use with that Power BI budgeting and reporting tools that are very much directed to the users. So in addition to the optimization and the performance improvement and the productivity improvement, a key benefit for these users at the state is that they're able to now focus on their key tasks. And those key tasks are servicing the programs for their clients across the state from their, with their 3,000 employees, they're to be able to spend much more time on their own business. And that's a key benefit for our public sector clients, such as labor and industries. I'd like to, again, thank you for your time in attending our Microsoft Dynamics 365 solutions for the public sector. We trust you found it of value. Again, if you haven't posted your questions, please post them. We'll be on for a couple more minutes. And if you need to come back to us, please contact myself, Dennis Lacey. There's my coordinates there. As well as Dustin Knudsen from Microsoft. So Dustin Knudsen is with the state and local government group. You can contact either one of us as a follow-up. Again, thank you.